What should we do with Clive Palmer? Should we lock him up somewhere?
Look, I think there has to be some very strong action taken. We see the government use various measures that we have in our laws to take actions against journalists, against whistleblowers, and yet we have this figure of Clive Palmer who spends millions, costs other people lots of money, has numerous court proceedings, and yet there is no action.
What? What did she just say? Lock up Clive Palmer? Or use the same laws the government uses against journalists and whistleblowers to stop him. And she said it so casually. And the TV hosts that we're watching on Channel 9, of all stations, were just like, yeah, you know, very casually accepting of that. Just ludicrous listening to this stuff on Australian television. But this is where we are descending as a country. I'm going to play the rest of this clip. Now, keep in mind that, yes, Clive Palmer can be a bit out there and do things which are a bit more the average person can't do, because we don't have the means and the money to be able to do these kind of campaigns that he does. But, you know, like a lot of major advertising corporations, they do these kind of campaigns. The government do campaigns. Channel 9, of all people, were running a campaign without being forced by anyone, of their own volition, for people to get vaccinated. So if you have a certain message that you want to get across and you have the means and the money to do it, yeah, you put that money to use and you do those things. This is one of the benefits of living in like a, you know, Western liberal democracy, in a free country like we are told that we live in all the time by these same people on TV. This is what it's about. So, look, I'm going to play the rest of this clip. Listen to it. Listen to these loonies talking. I know one guy that I don't know what his name is, Carl or something. I don't know, that news presenter. Before I start all of this is a clip of him getting the jab on a Channel 9 commercial. So totally, this guy is fully all in on this vaccine thing. So can we ever say that his opinion is unbiased when he's been pushing people down this path? Now, that's his right. You know, this is what this kind of freedom of implied free speech in this country allows to happen. Even though I question whether we can have a news show host who present information about vaccines to the viewer as being unbiased and they're just presenting news, also at the same time, in a commercial sense, as a part of their commercial contract with their TV station, it seems, promoting a vaccine on a commercial. Enough of that. Watch this clip of them talking about putting Clive Palmer behind bars once and for all.
I'm Clive Palmer. He's lurking with intent, bombarding letterboxes around the country, urging people not to get vaccinated, claiming the jab is more dangerous than the government's letting on. Meantime, Labor MP Andrew Giles has called this action disgraceful, ludicrous and destructive. What should we do with Clive Palmer? Should we lock him up somewhere?
So what's Clive been doing? Bombarding people's letterboxes with information. That's the crime. That's why we should lock him up. Look at this loosely used language by them. Lock him up for putting stuff in people's letterboxes and giving them alternative information. Now, if they think that people are just looking at a pamphlet in the letterbox and becoming vaccine hesitant, you know, they're just stupid presenters on TV, and this very silly lady that's talking have no idea of what's actually going on in this country when it comes to this vaccine. The major source, not the only, but the major source of vaccine hesitancy in Australia right now is the government. Whether it's federal or state governments, it's our opposition as well, the Labor opposition, especially the federal Labor opposition. These guys are the ones that are a part of the problem because, and I almost forgot, the experts. The experts have been a major issue in creating this vaccine hesitancy in this country. And I'll tell you how they do it. It's not Clive Palmer putting information in letterbox about information about the vaccine that, there might be issues with it, or look at these alternatives, or whatever it is. That's not what's creating the major hesitancy. Because if you watch the media at the same time, they will tell you that people who are anti-vax are a fringe element. They're trying to stop the rest of the community with going ahead. So they say the anti-vax movement, they say people like Clive Palmer, all these kind of things, don't actually have much sway in the community. Yet all of a sudden, they're trying to shift all that blame over for this screwed up vaccine rollout in Australia, again, onto this minority that they claim exists. People, it is the government, it is the experts, it is these silly medical opinions that they keep releasing and changing once a month, that's creating vaccine hesitancy among the population in this country. This is a population that have overwhelmingly welcomed lockdown. These same people, it seems, overwhelmingly welcome this vaccine without too much research, without too much questions. Okay, there's a small minority of people trying to inform them of different things, which is what they want to put Clive Palmer in jail for, I suppose, and what they'd like to do to a lot of people that share these different opinions. See, as long as you're promoting the vaccine on Channel 9 as a host and getting the jab on the ad, all these things are fine. The changing advice, the rollout changes, the mistakes they've made, and all these things are totally acceptable. But how dare someone inform the public of a different set of things? No, we should put them in jail. And the government creates vaccine hesitancy by, I guess, there's no other way to put it, but it seems like this AZ vaccine, at least, because this is the one that's been majorly discussed in this country, seems like, it could have been maybe rushed in the sense that the government maybe didn't do the due diligence the way that they promoted to the people, right? The way that they told us when they first announced this vaccine, where ScoMo's walking around the factory with his Australia mask on and showing you a little jab like this, and you got the AstraZeneca representatives there speaking how great this is, and everyone's just like, this is so great. Then you got our CMO and CHOs all around the state saying, 100%, no problems. This is the one that majority of Australians are going to get. Of course, then ScoMo goes and gets the Pfizer one. But anyway, majority of Australians are going to get this AZ jab. That's how they sold it to us. That's how they sold the investment that's happening. It's being manufactured in CSL in Melbourne. All these things, all right? And then what happened? They realized that after they actually told us it's all good to go, everyone can take it, people are having adverse reactions to it. There's clotting. Now, I've been watching this stuff for the last few months. When the first cases of adverse reactions were reported, when people were talking about blood clotting, these same media companies, they got these experts, onto the television, and the experts were telling us, no, it's not, it's something else. This clotting happens, it's, very rare. It's 1 in 4 million chance, or whatever numbers they bring up to justify all this. Yeah, so don't worry about it. It's been approved by the TGA and ATAGI, and everything's great.
So confidence really surrounds safety. And this is a safe vaccine. So that's not the debate. The safe vaccine. It might even be safer than the Pfizer vaccine, which does cause allergy in a small number of people because of one of the components. The likelihood is that this will be nothing in the end. And if I was due for an Astra vaccine tomorrow or today, I'd have it because I think it's just an incredibly rare phenomenon.
And there hasn't been one death that's been attributed absolutely to any of these vaccines.
The vaccine is safe, that the AstraZeneca vaccine has not been associated in the original trials, nor in use in over 10 million people, real-world experience.
But most scientists can't understand how any of the content of AstraZeneca could possibly cause a clot.
But what happens is, it becomes unavoidable, the situation with these adverse reactions in certain age groups. It's happening all around the world, and then it's happening in Australia. And the TGA, ATAGI, they see these people coming to hospital. They can make the connection between the vaccine and this clotting issue. Yes, granted, from what they're telling us, it's a very small percentage of the population, a tiny fraction of the population that's having these adverse reactions. But because of that, they are, which I think is great in an ethical and moral point, they are taking the steps to rectify that. And each time they keep raising the age. So we went from, everyone that's above a certain age can take this vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine, no issues. Then we went to, if you're below 50, don't take it. But 50 and above, all good to go, no stress. And then again, you had the experts being rolled on the television telling you, hey, it's all good, guys. It's been done. This is why we know that we're in a good position, because our experts keep changing the advice. And then a lot of people were like, you had a lot of more people lining up to get vaccines, especially when the lockdowns happened in Melbourne. You had this massive rush of people going in to get the vaccine. So this vaccine hesitancy myth that they're saying is created by people like Clive Palmer and anti-vaxxers is not the case, because what happened then is a few weeks later, you have the government coming out and saying, oh, look, I think people below 60, they shouldn't take this vaccine either. Because why? Because we've had multiple deaths now of people in their 50s. We've had lots of stories of adverse reactions. We have people in ICU. We have people that, end up in the emergency department now because of taking this AZ jab. Yes, again, I'll be very honest with the with the statistics we've seen on television, at least from what I know, it's a very, very, very tiny percentage of the population. But it's tiny and problematic enough for the TGA and the TARGI to act on it, because it doesn't look good. Because if we keep going down this path, you're going to have more Australians dropping dead. And then it's hard for them to even, deny what's going on here, right? So they raise the age to 60 and above. Now, that act alone is what's created this crazy vaccine hesitancy. And it's not just for people above the age of, above the age of 60 who are hesitant about AstraZeneca. It creates vaccine hesitancy across the board, and people want to see what's going to happen to them when they go line up and put this thing in their arm. It's one thing for a politician to line up and say, hey, take the jab, we're going to put as many jabs as we can in people's arms. But it's another thing for someone to consider their own personal life. It's another thing for me to consider the life of my family. It's another thing for, anyone to consider the life of their children even, because they're talking about vaccinations for children. So you have this complex thing going on where the government keeps telling you it's all good to go while they're changing the advice on a weekly basis. This is the same people, remember, again, like I said before, they told us that, this is not rushed. The reason that we got these vaccines so fast is because billions and billions of dollars, the whole world got together and pumped all this money into it and got it done. So it's exactly the same amount of trial and error research that they do as usual for any other vaccine. But no, that's not what's happening. What we're seeing before our eyes, what you are witnessing before your eyes, people, is a government and their medical authorities, whether it's the TARGI or the TGA, having to tweak their rollout because the data is actually coming in live. The issues and the problems that are found with this vaccine, this AZ vaccine, is coming in live. Now, that is what is creating this vaccine hesitancy in the community, because most of the population, as Australians, we are not stupid as much as there might be some things that indicate that maybe we are, a bit of like a sheep, with a sheep mentality. We're not stupid. Even the people that love lockdown, that love being locked up and are happy for the government and listen to everything that the government tells them, they are the most cautious about these things when it comes to their life. That's why they like this. So that's why there's vaccine hesitancy, not because of Clive Palmer and his letterbox drops. Okay? I'll play this clip again.
Has to be some very strong action taken. We see the government use various measures that we have in our laws to take actions against journalists, against whistleblowers. Okay,
therein is the next problem. This is a lady that's openly talking about, we lock up whistleblowers, we lock up journalists by using the government's rule. Let's just do it to the politician as well. This is where we're at now on TV. People are saying crazy things like this because someone has an alternative opinion about the vaccine or this emergency or the lockdown, whatever it is. So this is where we're at. And if those other reporters had any type of journalistic integrity, if they actually thought they were actually reporters or journalists, they wouldn't just sit there smirking and laughing about this thing about, journalists and whistleblowers being locked up. These guys, they don't care because they're just paid shills, most likely. They're the same people that will get on television and put a jab into themselves to promote it when they're trying to be seen as unbiased. So yeah, it's crazy that these people are openly talking about locking up journalists and media people like everyday normal occurrence. And we should now move that onto locking up these politicians, because you see politicians have some kind of protection at least from all this stuff, right? Because if they come after me for the things that I say or things I do, like they came to my house, whatever it is, if they come after me, it's a lot harder for me to, have adequate legal representation, to have the funds to battle them. They can silence someone like me a lot easier, maybe, if I can't support myself. Now, Clive Palmer, the one advantage is someone like Clive Palmer, this guy's got a lot of money. He's wealthy. So he can go up against governments. He can take them to court. He can go to any court. He can match them dollar for dollar for whatever it is. Now, people might say it's stupid and he's wasted money, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. It shows you that when you have the means to defend yourself against the government, then they step it up, because now it's not about, let's go through the court process and see if this is legal. Now it's about, hey, the government should totally just use these other laws and other things, just lock this guy up as well. Yeah, it doesn't matter that he's a politician. It doesn't matter that he's speaking to his constituents. It doesn't matter that he's got a different political opinion from the other politicians. Let's just lock him up. This is what you expect in a third world, fascist, a communist nation, or some sort of, authoritarian, dodgy country. This is what you expect. I'm telling you, this is not normal to see this kind of language, to see the way that they're talking about people for having different opinions on television in Australia. It's not normal. And, somewhere along the line, we've gone a bit loony and forgotten our roots, that we are a Western liberal democracy, and there's certain things that we cherish. We are more than happy to hear from the crazy person on the street yelling things. Now, this crazy person this time, Clive Palmer, they're saying, has money and he can defend himself. That's their problem. So see how easily they want to go after people, even just like Clive Palmer. Just think about how they've gone after people, like everyday people like you and me. No chance. And this is what they've been doing with censorship, okay? Clive Palmer is now using the letterbox, because maybe he can't get this message out to his people on social media because the big tech monopolies, they've fully started to control the narrative around this. We saw this with what they did to Craig Kelly. Now, Craig Kelly, if we look at what Craig Kelly said a few months ago and look at what the situation that we're in today, for a politician, he's kind of been on the money, because the new studies that come in about alternative therapies and treatments for this virus, there's a lot more coming out from these, scientists and stuff who are, even then when Craig Kelly was talking about it, actually, he wasn't off the ball. But now there's even more and more evidence that, yeah, some of the things he was saying is true. Classic example is with this whole Wuhan lab thing. A few months ago, you couldn't even say that the virus came out of the Wuhan lab. Now you have all these Hollywood A-listers and, on the TV, all these scientists and stuff, they openly discuss like, yeah, that's a possibility. Like, we just wasn't sure because that's not the narrative that we were given at that time. But now, yeah, that could totally happen. And what's worse is the media, they just play along, okay? The media plays along. And there was a clip from Channel 7 the other day that I saw on social media. And this is from I think this week sometime, and it was I think a GP and a host on Channel 7 discussing vaccine hesitancy, and also discussing why the government's rollout's not going to plan. And one of the things that they said shows you exactly what the media is doing, because the media is now blaming you. Okay, they're blaming you, the people that took the vaccine, and are now in this situation for not doing, being vaccine hesitant and not doing the research. Yeah, I'll play the clip.
I mean, to have a scenario where you've got patients coming in going, hi doctor, here's a tweet saying the messaging's changed and you're about to give a jab, that to me, I find towards the upper end of astonishing.
Absolutely, and all of the patients who said, I'm going to wait for a Pfizer, and we GPs would go, no point waiting, it's not going to happen, the only one you can have is the AstraZeneca, let me give that to you. Well, it turns out we were wrong, they were right, and all of those people who were vaccine hesitant are now like looking really, really smart, and all the people who did the right thing and went to go and get the vaccine earlier look like they were being really, really silly. And that's a big problem for credibility, and it's seen a number of GPs just go, I'm out, I don't want to do COVID vaccination clinics anymore, you know what, go and get it somewhere else.
Well, I mean, a few months from now, it's more than possible that this AstraZeneca thing is totally imploded in Australia. We've totally switched to Pfizer and Moderna or Novavax or whatever other ones they keep talking about. And the media will be like, yeah, well, the people that took the AstraZeneca, they should have just, waited and, maybe it would have been good to be vaccine hesitant, right? This is ridiculous, and this is how they behave. So you cannot take anything that these people on television, these Muppets on TV, these shills on TV are telling you to do with your health and safety and your life. A medical emergency or a health emergency, as this lady frames it. I'll play the clip.
With respect, freedom of speech does not cover public health emergency. The TGA has approved. There is a level of risk, but there is a level of risk of not taking the vaccine.
A health emergency does not mean a gateway to tyranny. Okay, you cannot just pass all these rules and laws to just just control the population in such a way that you don't allow alternative views. You don't allow freedom of expression, particularly from our medical community, particularly from scientists, and definitely from politicians. Of course, in my opinion, the media and whistleblowers, all these kind of things have to be protected above all of these in many ways, because they report on these incidents, and it's important that they're freely allowed to talk about it. But stopping our, medical professionals, stopping our politicians from sharing alternative therapies, alternative views, is just crazy to think that because of a health emergency, we just stop that altogether. And the only narrative that we can go along with, the only thing that we can do is listen to whatever the government says and whatever these health bureaucrats are telling us. This is what they would like. And that's crazy, because we've seen time and time again now that their advice changes. And it looks like it's only changing based on evidence that they're finding after the fact, after it's too late for one or two poor Australians. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's one or two poor Australians. The number doesn't matter. No one should be dying from the lack of the willingness of the government and these health authorities to have an open, robust debate. Because if there's no problems, everything's all good, people are willing to line up and do all sorts of things. But a lot of people are questioning what's going on. So these Muppets on TV again, trying to put people in jail, trying to stop any debate about this, not just on social media now. They want to stop it in the public sphere as well. They want to stop your politicians directly communicating with you. Screw these people. These people are I'd say the enemy of Western liberal democracies. These people are, I can't use the words that I want to say about these people. Look, guys, thanks for watching. That's it for this episode of Media Watch. I'll see you guys next time.
As I said, Zali, Alicia, lock him up.
Well, at the very least, prosecute him.